Imagine this. You make thousands of dollars on a property deal. Sounds good.
Right.
But here's the twist. You never actually own the property. You don't swing a hammer. Maybe you don't even need a real estate license in some places.
Yeah, it sounds almost too good to be true for some people, doesn't it?
It really does. But welcome to the world of U.S. wholesale real estate. And underpinning it is this really powerful idea.
Yeah.
The finder's fee model.
It's definitely a different slice of the real estate pie. It kind of bypasses a lot of the steps people usually associate with property deals, like, getting mortgages, doing renovations, holding on to it for years.
Right. It's less about the physical asset and more about, information, opportunity.
Exactly. It's fundamentally about the value created just by finding a good opportunity and then connecting the right people who need each other to make a deal happen.
Okay, so today, that's what we're diving deep into, this specific corner of the U.S. market. We're unpacking this finder's fee model as it actually plays out in wholesale real estate. And we've got a great collection of source materials here, actually provided by a listener who really wanted to get to the bottom of this. How does it work? Why do people do it? What are the actual rules?
And that's our mission for this deep dive, right? We want to cut through some of the hype, maybe some of the noise you hear online about this, define the terms you absolutely need to know.
Yeah, the jargon can be confusing.
Definitely. And we want to lay out the step-by-step process based on the practical details in these sources. We'll look at the tricky parts, the potential pitfalls, because it's not always straightforward.
And the legal side is huge here, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely critical. We need to clarify the legal landscape, and this is important, we're sticking strictly to what's presented in these source materials. We're essentially guiding you through what these documents say about becoming a real estate deal finder.
Okay, perfect. And let's start with that big distinction because I think it trips people up. Our listeners' sources really emphasize this. We are not talking about flipping houses today.
Right. Huge difference. Flipping means you buy it, you fix it up sometimes, a lot of fixing to boost the value, and then you sell the actual house for hopefully more money.
That's the model everyone sees on TV.
Yeah.
Buy low, renovate, sell high.
Exactly. This is different. Wholesaling, especially through this finder's fee lens, is about connecting the seller and the eventual buyer. You earn your money, your fee, basically for making the introduction, or maybe better said, for facilitating the connection that makes the final sale possible.
Okay, so let's nail down that first term then.
Yeah.
What is wholesale real estate at its core based on what we're seeing in these sources?
Well, the sources like Investopedia and Mortgage Professional describe it as a short-term strategy. You're not planning to hold on to the property. The main idea is finding properties that are undervalued. Maybe they're distressed, off-market.
The owner needs to sell quickly?
Often, yeah. That's a big part of it. So you find such a property and you get it under contract to purchase it yourself. But then the key move is you very quickly sell, or more accurately, you assign that contract to someone else.
Assign the contract, not the house.
Exactly. You assign the paper, the right to buy, to another buyer. And this other buyer is usually an investor. Could be a house flipper, could be a landlord looking for another rental, someone who does plan to actually buy the property, maybe fix it up, whatever their strategy is.
And the wholesaler, they don't actually close on the purchase themselves.
Typically, no. And they don't make any improvements. That's fundamental. They find the deal, lock it up contractually, and pass the contract along.
So the goal purely is to profit from finding a good deal. You find a property you can get under contract for, say, $100,000.
Right.
And then you find an investor who thinks that's a steal and is happy to pay maybe $110,000 just to take over your contract.
That's the essence of it. You're selling the deal itself, the right to buy that property at the price and terms you negotiated. The investor sees the value in that opportunity you found.
Okay, so the key difference from flipping, the sources really stress this, is no renovation work by the wholesaler.
None. Zero. And crucially, in the standard model, the wholesaler never actually takes title to the property. They never officially own it.
The ownership goes directly from the original seller
to the final cash buyer, the investor who took the assignment. The wholesaler is essentially out of the picture once the assignment is done and the final closing happens.
So the wholesaler really is just a middleman then?
Precisely. They secure the property via contract from the seller. Then they mark it and assign that contract to a cash buyer or investor.
Yeah, and the money they make. What's that called? Is that the finder's fee?
It functions like one, yes. The sources use a few terms interchangeably: finder's fee, spread, transaction fee. But the most common one you'll hear in wholesaling is the assignment fee.
Okay, assignment fee.
And it's just the difference in price. Simple math. The lower price you agreed to pay the seller in your contract versus the higher price the investor pays you for the right to take over that contract. That difference is your profit.
That makes sense. You're getting paid for finding the deal and connecting the buyer. The fact that you never own the property, just the contract. That brings us to the other side of this coin. What exactly is a finder's fee? Like in general terms, according to these sources.
Good question. Sources like Leadfellow and Investopedia define it pretty clearly. A finder's fee is basically a payment, a commission, given to someone, a person or a company, whose main role was connecting two other parties who then complete a transaction together.
So you're getting paid just for making the introduction that leads to a deal?
Essentially, yes. The payment is for the service of bringing those two sides together. Leadfellow describes the finder as an intermediary. They make the intro, maybe help things along a bit, and facilitate a deal that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise.
So the whole point is rewarding someone for sourcing the opportunity, for making that link.
Exactly. You're compensated for enabling the transaction by bridging the gap between the parties. Investopedia specifically says the payment is for the act of facilitating the deal through that connection you made.
Who usually pays this fee?
Generally, it's the party who benefits most from the introduction. Could be the business that got funding, the seller who found a buyer, maybe an agent involved. Leadfellow does mention it can sometimes be split.
And is it always cash?
Almost always in a business context like this. Investopedia technically notes it could be a non-monetary gift, but realistically we're talking about a commission, often a percentage of the deal value, or a flat fee.
Okay, this is where things might get a little fuzzy for people, because the sources also talk about referral fees. Sounds really similar. I connect someone, I get paid. What's the difference based on what we have here?
Yeah, the terminology can overlap, but Leadfellow gives us a good breakdown. The key difference is the purpose of the connection. A finder's fee is for connecting two parties who are doing a specific transaction together. Think seller and buyer, or company and investor.
Okay, connecting the deal participants.
Right. A referral fee, on the other hand, is usually for sending a customer to a business for its regular product or service. Like telling your friend about a great plumber, and the plumber gives you a discount next time.
Ah, okay. Transaction connection versus customer generation. That helps.
And the types of deals tend to differ too. Finder's fees are more common in bigger, maybe more complex situations. Think mergers and acquisitions, large real estate deals, finding big financing rounds.
Higher stakes stuff?
Generally, yeah. Referral fees are much more common in everyday consumer industries, retail, travel, services, where it's about getting more customers for standard offerings.
And the payment amounts probably reflect that.
Definitely. Finder's fees are often much larger because they're tied to the value of that bigger, unique transaction. Referral fees are usually smaller, maybe a fixed amount, or a small percentage of a regular sale.
What about when you get paid?
Finder's fees are typically paid when the main transaction closes. The big deal is done, the finder gets their cut. Referral fees often get paid sooner, maybe just when the referred customer makes their first purchase or signs up.
And how many people are involved in setting up the fee?
In a typical finder's fee setup, you've got 3 players. The 2 main parties doing the deal, plus the finder who connected them. A referral fee is usually simpler, just 2 parties. The business getting the customer and the person who sent them over.
Okay, let's try an example based on that. If I know someone looking to sell their rare comic book collection, and I know a serious collector who'd love it, I connect them, they make a deal for $50,000, and they give me 5%, $2,500 after the sale. That's a finder's fee.
Sounds like a classic finder's fee based on those definitions. You connected the 2 transaction parties.
But if I just tell my neighbor to try a new streaming service using my code, and I get a free month when they sign up.
That's a referral fee. You send a customer to the business.
Got it. That distinction is clear. Now, Leadfellow apparently mentions real estate agents paying finder's fees for client referrals, which sounds like it could muddy the waters again.
It can seem confusing, but other sources like Investopedia and Real Property Management clarify this. Licensed real estate agents are generally allowed to pay referral fees, but typically only to other licensed real estate professionals.
Oh, okay. License to license is usually okay.
Right. Paying unlicensed people for activities that require a license, like negotiating deals or showing properties, that's where the big legal problems come in. And that's super relevant for wholesaling.
Okay, that legal piece is definitely something we need to keep circling back to. So let's tie it all together now. How does this finder's fee idea apply specifically to wholesale real estate?
It fits like a glove, really.
Yeah.
The wholesaler is the finder in this scenario. They find party number one, the property owner, often someone motivated to sell quickly, maybe off market.
The distressed seller.
Exactly. And then they find party number two, the cash buyer, the investor who's actively looking for these kinds of deals.
And a wholesaler connects them.
Right.
But indirectly, right, using the contract.
Precisely. They get the contract from the seller, which gives them the right to buy. Then they transfer or assign that right to the buyer. So they facilitate the connection and the eventual transaction between the original seller and the end buyer.
And the money they make that assignment fee or spread that is their finder's fee.
Functionally, yes. It's their compensation for finding the property, finding the buyer, and bringing them together through the mechanism of the contract assignment. They get paid for making the deal happen.
Investopedia says the wholesaler's profit is the difference between their contract price with the seller and the higher price the assignee pays. And Mortgage Professional is really direct, saying a wholesaler can walk away with a solid finder's fee without ever owning the property if they do it right and legally.
Yeah, that directly links the wholesale profit to the finder's fee concept. You're paid for the value of your finding and connecting service executed via the contract assignment.
So if you're looking into wholesaling, you're essentially looking into becoming a specialist finder for off-market or distressed property deals. Okay, that framework makes sense. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does someone actually do this? What's the step-by-step process based on the details in these sources?
All right, this is where the rubber meets the road. And the details from sources like that Reddit thread, Investopedia, Mortgage Professional are super important. Step one, before you even think about finding a property, learn the laws.
Not negotiable, huh?
Absolutely not. The sources are unanimous. Every single state is different. Sometimes even cities or counties have their own rules about real estate transactions, about assigning contracts, and especially about licensing.
So this isn't just like a footnote. It's job one.
It's job one. Investopedia, Mortgage Professional, they both say you must talk to a real estate attorney in your specific state before you do anything else.
And that Reddit thread had some wild state-specific examples, didn't it? Like Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa's a great example of how things can change. As of July 1st, 2024, the source says you now need a real estate license to wholesale there, period. And not only that, you have to explicitly tell the seller, both verbally and in writing, right up front, that your plan is to assign the contract, not buy it yourself.
Wow, that's a huge transparency requirement on top of the license.
It is. And Iowa also has that unique closing process mentioned, no title insurance usually. They use abstracts, escrow, and a lawyer's title opinion. That completely changes how the final step, the closing, works compared to many other states.
So local knowledge is everything. What about Illinois?
Illinois, according to that same Reddit source, has a different setup based on a 2019 law. It seems to allow one assignment per year without a license. But if you want to do more than one amount, basically make a business of it, then you need an Illinois real estate license.
Okay, so volume limit there. And California. Big market, probably complex rules.
You bet. The legal secret source clarifies that in California, a licensed broker can't pay an unlicensed person a fee for doing things that require a license, like negotiating the actual purchase terms with the seller.
But what about just finding the lead?
That source suggests that just providing the lead, simply making the connection, might be okay for an unlicensed person to get a finder's fee in California. But there's a fine line there between just connecting and actually brokering or negotiating.
Sounds like a line you'd want an attorney to help you walk.
Absolutely. The overall message from Investopedia and Legal Secrets is, laws vary wildly. Some states definitely require a license for activities that look like wholesaling, especially if it seems like you're acting like an unlicensed broker. And that Reddit source also mentioned the basics. If you're under 18, you can't sign contracts. You need an adult partner.
So step one isn't just check the laws. It's get professional legal advice for your specific situation and location. Ignoring this seems like a massive risk. Real Property Management listed some red flags too, right?
Yeah.
Things to watch out for.
They did. Big red flags around fees. Right. Like, if someone asks you, the wholesaler, to pay a fee directly to an agent outside of the official closing, that's usually a no-go. Fees typically flow through the title company or closing attorney.
Okay, what else?
Requesting or getting a fee yourself if you don't have a license in a state where wholesaling activities require one, that's obviously risky. And flipping that around, paying someone else a fee if they aren't licensed but should be for whatever they did to earn that fee.
And they mentioned federal laws too. RSPA.
Yeah, RASPA, the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, and CFPB rules. These mainly apply to residential deals involving mortgages, like typical home purchases. RPA specifically targets illegal kickbacks or referral fees among licensed parties or settlement service providers. It prohibits exchanging value for referrals if licenses are required and not held.
So even if your state allows unlicensed assignment for cash deals, if you start involving licensed agents or transactions that touch federal mortgage rules, you could run into RSPA issues.
It's possible. The interaction between state licensing, contract law, and federal regulations like RSPA can get complicated fast. Again, lawyer territory.
Okay. Step 1. Deep legal check with local counsel. Crystal clear. What's step 2? After the legal groundwork.
Step 2 is finding the deals. This means finding distressed properties, or maybe more accurately, finding motivated sellers. People who need or really want to sell quickly, maybe avoid the traditional listing process, and are willing to trade some equity for speed and convenience.
Why would someone be motivated like that?
Lots of reasons. According to Mortgage Professional and Investopedia, maybe they're facing foreclosure, have big liens against the property, the house needs tons of repairs they can't afford or handle. Maybe it's divorce, an unwanted inheritance, or they just need cash urgently. Their motivation is the key.
And how do you find these folks?
Sources suggest a mix of methods. You can actively market yourself as a cash buyer, maybe targeted social media, direct mail to specific lists like absentee owners or houses with code violations, even just old-fashioned word of mouth.
Could you use the MLS?
You can look at MLS listings, especially if you partner with a licensed agent, carefully minding those legal lines we talked about. Also, online auctions, foreclosure sites, and a big one seems to be networking groups.
Networking keeps coming up. Okay, so you found a potential motivated seller. Step 3.
Step 3 is critical for managing your risk and making sure it's actually a deal worth pursuing. Determine the potential ROI, do your due diligence, run the numbers before you sign anything.
How do you figure out if the numbers work?
Mortgage Professional suggests starting broad. What's the local market doing? Lots of buyers, lots of competing properties. Then get specific. Compare this property to recent similar sales, a comparative market analysis, or CMA. An agent can help this, or you can learn to research it.
Look at the property's history, too.
Yeah. How long has it been for sale? Any price drops, that confirms motivation. And critically, assess the condition. What repairs are really needed? You need a realistic estimate of repair costs.
Because that affects the value, right? Investopedia mentioned calculating the ARV.
Exactly. ARV, after repair value. That's what the house could be worth on the open market after it's all fixed up. You need that ARV to calculate your MAO, maximum allowable offer.
The MAO, maximum allowable offer.
Right. That's the highest price you can offer the seller and still leave enough room for your assignment fee, plus enough profit potential for the end buyer, the investor, after they pay you, buy the house, and do the repairs.
Is there a formula for that?
A common rule of thumb you hear, though the sources don't detail it precisely, is something like, take the ARV, multiply by maybe 70%, investors need a buffer, then subtract the estimated repair costs. What's left is roughly your MAO. If the seller wants more than that, the deal probably won't work for a wholesale.
That 70% isn't fixed, I imagine. Depends on the market, the investor.
Exactly. It's a guideline. Yeah. But the principle is sound. You have to calculate backwards from the potential end value, accounting for all costs and profits along the way.
So if the math doesn't pencil out, walk away, even if the seller seems motivated. Step 4.
Step 4. Talk to the seller. Make your offer. This is where your communication skills really come into play. Investopedia stresses being upfront about your role. Explain you're a wholesaler. You plan to put it under contract and then assign that contract to a cash buyer. Assure them it's legitimate if you're following the laws. Transparency builds trust.
And negotiation. Mortgage Professional had tips.
They did. Use your findings from inspecting the property condition, maybe get a formal inspection to justify a lower offer. Point out needed repairs the seller might not know about. Ask for seller concessions, maybe help with closing costs. Be ready to negotiate, maybe go back and forth or walk away if you can't reach your MAO.
Get to a price and terms that work for everyone involved, seller, you, and the future buyer. Okay. Step 5, the contract.
Step 5, get it in writing. Obtain a property contract, usually a standard purchase and sale agreement. This is the legally binding document.
And this contract needs specific wording for wholesaling, right? That Reddit source was detailed here.
Extremely important details. Seller's name goes in the seller field, obviously. But in the buyer field, you put your name, or your company name, followed by those magic words, and/or assigns.
And/or assigns. Can't forget that.
Cannot forget it. That phrase gives you the explicit legal right to assign your position as the buyer to someone else, your end investor. Without it, or similar approved language, you might be stuck buying the property yourself.
What else goes in that contract?
Property address, the purchase price you just negotiated, and who the escrow agent will be. That's the title company or closing attorney handling the transaction. The Reddit source cleverly suggests using one your potential buyers already like and trust, if possible. Makes the assignment smoother later.
And the EMD, earnest money deposit.
Yep, you gotta put some skin in the game. Specify the EMD amount the Reddit source mentioned, maybe just $100 to minimize your risk, and follow the contract terms for depositing it. But remember, Mortgage Professional warns that EMD is at risk if you back out without a valid reason.
Which leads to the contingency clause, step 5B.
Crucial safety net. Investopedia strongly advises including a contingency that makes your purchase obligation dependent on finding a suitable assignee for the contract within a certain time frame before the contract expires. This lets you potentially walk away and get your EMD back if you can't find a buyer, limits your risk dramatically.
And just double-checking the contract explicitly states the right to assign.
Yes. Investopedia repeats that make sure the assignability is crystal clear. Once you and the seller sign this purchase and sale agreement, it's executed. And as the Reddit source pointed out, you now hold equitable interest in the property.
Equitable interest. What does that mean in plain English?
Think of it like having a reserved spot. You don't own the car yet, the property title, but you have the official legally recognized reservation ticket, the contract, saying you have the right to buy it under these specific terms. That right, that claim based on the contract is your equitable interest. That's what you're actually selling or assigning.
Got it. Selling the right, not the thing. Okay, contract signed, EMD safe, hopefully, contingency in place, equitable interest secured. Now you need someone to sell that interest to. Step 6.
Step 6, find your cash buyer. This is where that network we keep mentioning becomes absolutely vital, and the Reddit source makes a key point. You are marketing your contract, your equitable interest, not the house itself. Don't act like you own the property and are listing it for sale that can cross legal lines into unlicensed brokerage.
Okay, so how do you build this mythical buyers list?
Practical tips from the Reddit source. Search online for strategies, maybe using tools like PropStream or PropWire that track investor activity. Look up recent property sales in your target area bought by LLCs. Those are often investors.
And networking events, REIAs.
Huge. Reddit and Investopedia both strongly recommend going to local real estate investment association meetings. That's where the active cash buyers hang out, specifically looking for the kinds of deals wholesalers find.
The Reddit source also said, just talk to people.
Yeah, talk directly to potential buyers. Don't be shy. Ask them, what kind of properties do you buy? What neighborhoods? What's your repair budget range? What's the most you'd pay for a contract like this? Who do you like using for closings? Buyers need wholesalers to bring them deals, so they're often happy to tell you what they're looking for.
So knowing your buyer criteria helps you find the right deals in the first place. It all connects.
Exactly. It feeds back into step 3, doing the math. Make sure there's actually someone who will want the deal you're trying to put together.
Okay, step 6, find the buyer, know their needs. Step 7, making the transfer happen.
Step 7, assign the contract. This is the formal legal step where you transfer your rights from the original purchase and sale agreement to your cash buyer. You use a separate document for this, usually called an assignment agreement or assignment of contract.
And the Reddit source had specifics on this document too.
It did. Your name or company goes in as the assigner. You're assigning it away. The buyer's name, often their LLC, goes in as the assignee. They're receiving the right.
And crucially, the money part. There's another deposit here.
Yes, very important detail from the Reddit source. You should negotiate a non-refundable earnest money deposit from the buyer, paid directly to you, or held by the title company for your benefit upon signing the assignment. This is separate from your initial EMD with the seller. The source mentioned maybe $2,500 or $5,000 as examples here.
Non-refundable. Why is that important?
It gives the buyer serious skin in the game. They're committing real money for the right to take over your deal. If they back out of the assignment for a reason not allowed in that specific assignment agreement, you typically keep that deposit as compensation for your time and the deal potentially falling through. Protects you.
Okay, so buyer signs the assignment agreement, gives you the non-refundable EMD.
Yeah.
Then what?
You sign it too. Then, according to the Reddit source, you take both documents, the original purchase and sale agreement and the new assignment agreement, to the title company or closing attorney you designated back in step 5. The buyer then usually wires their remaining funds needed for closing. the purchase price plus your assignment fee plus their closing costs, to that same title company within a short time frame, like 24, 48 hours.
All right. Contracts and money are flowing to the title company. Step 8, closing day.
Step 8, closing. This is the finish line where the property actually changes hands from the original seller to your cash buyer, usually on the date set in the original purchase agreement. The title company orchestrates everything.
What exactly does the title company do?
They wear a lot of hats. They get the final funds from the cash buyer. They prepare the new deed transferring ownership from seller to buyer. They make sure the title is clear, no surprise, liens, or issues. They pay the original seller the price you agreed to pay them, minus their costs. They give the buyer the deed.
And the wholesaler. How do you get paid your assignment fee?
The title company handles that payout too. After the seller is paid according to your original contract and all closing costs are settled, they'll return your initial EMD from step 5. Then, from the remaining funds the buyer brought in, they cut you a check or wire you your assignment fee, that difference between what the buyer paid and what the seller received.
So the buyer's money basically covers the seller's price, and the extra bit left over is your profit, paid out by the neutral third party.
That's the standard assignment closing. Smooth and clean when done right. But the Reddit source mentioned another way too, the double close.
A double closing, or simultaneous closing. How's that different?
Structurally very different. It involves you, the wholesaler, actually taking title to the property yourself, but only for a very, very short time, maybe minutes or hours on closing day.
Why would you do that instead of just assigning?
Sometimes state laws make assignments tricky, or maybe the seller isn't comfortable with it, or the title company prefers not to handle assignments. In a double close, there are 2 separate transactions back to back. Transaction A, you buy the property from the original seller.
Using what money? Wholesalers usually don't have the full purchase price lying around.
Good point. You typically use short-term financing from a specialized transactional lender. They lend you the money just for that brief period, knowing you have Transaction B lined up immediately after.
Transaction B being?
Transaction B. You, now the temporary owner, immediately sell the property to your cash buyer in a separate closing. The cash buyer brings their funds for this purchase.
In the money flow.
The funds from the buyer in Transaction B go to the title company. They use that money to immediately pay back the transactional lender from Transaction A. After the lender is repaid and all closing costs for both transactions are covered, the remaining profit is yours.
So it achieves the same result, you get the spread, but you're briefly in the chain of title. Sounds more complicated, maybe more expensive with lender fees.
It is more complex, definitely adds costs, but it's a workaround if a direct assignment isn't practical or allowed. The Reddit source mentioned it might be used in places like Iowa, perhaps because of their unique title process.
Okay, 2 ways to close. Assignment or double close.
Yeah.
Both designed to get you that profit, that functional finder's fee. Speaking of fees, what are typical amounts for finders, generally and in real estate, according to the sources?
Ledfellow gives some general ranges. For broad business deals like finding investors, finder's fees might be 1% to 5% of the deal value. Could be higher, maybe 10% or more for really complex or high-value stuff.
And in real estate specifically?
Ledfellow suggests typical real estate referral fees, often between licensed agents, are more like 1% to 2% of the sale price, maybe higher for luxury or super competitive deals.
But for wholesalers, the assignment fee is the fee. Right? It's the spread, not necessarily a fixed percentage of the final price.
Exactly. While you could calculate it as a percentage after the fact, the core concept is the difference between your contract price and the assignment price. That spread could be way more or less than 1–2%, depending entirely on how good a deal you negotiated with the seller and how much the buyer was willing to pay.
So the wholesaler's fee is the direct result of the value they created by finding and connecting. Ledfellow listed factors influencing fee percentages that seem relevant here too.
Definitely. Things like deal complexity, a harder deal might justify a bigger spread. Transaction value, bigger price points mean bigger potential dollar spreads. Industry norms, relationships, maybe you give repeat buyers slightly better deals. Location matters. And the finder's skill, if you consistently bring amazing deals, buyers will pay more for your contract.
The example they gave. Mary connects John to investor Tom. Tom invests $500K, Mary gets 2%, so $10. In wholesaling, that $10 might be your spread. You get a house under contract for $150K, assigned for $160K. Same $10 K fee, different context.
It's the same core principle, payment for valuable connection leading to a transaction.
Okay, now this involves serious contracts, money, legal rights. What about the agreements themselves? the legal side of documenting this. The sources seem pretty emphatic about getting this right.
Non-negotiable. Leadfellow, Genie AI, they all hammer this point.
Yeah.
Get it in writing. And get it reviewed by a lawyer licensed in that state. Finder's fee agreements, assignment contracts, purchase agreements, they need professional legal eyes to avoid disaster.
Genie AI had that checklist for what should be in a solid finder's fee agreement. Even though a wholesale assignment is specific, the principles seem useful. What were the highlights?
First, identify the parties. Who is who? Finder, wholesaler, contractor, seller-buyer roles defined by the contracts, names, contact info, roles, relationship, super clear.
Scope of services. What exactly are you being paid for? Just
Yeah.
the intro. Find the buyer. Any limitations? Confidentiality.
Crucial. Then negotiate the fee structure. Is it fair? Does it reflect the effort and risk? And critically, is it legal in your state for an unlicensed person? Determine the fee itself, flat fee, assignment spread, or percentage. Legal limits.
Any additional costs? Who pays for title search? Escrow? Attorney reviews? Needs to be spelled out.
Payment methods and schedule. How is the fee calculated? When is it paid? Definitely at closing for wholesalers. Contingent on closing, yes. How is it paid wire transfer? Tax implications, all the details.
Avoids arguments later about who owes what, when.
Exactly. Then, legal implications. Rights, obligations of each party. What happens if someone breaches the contract? Remedies. Damages.
Confidentiality NDAs. Important with sensitive seller info or buyer lists. Define what's confidential, how to protect it, liability if it leaks.
Jurisdiction and governing law. Which states' laws apply, especially if parties are in different states, needs to be agreed upon up front.
Dispute resolution and termination. How do you handle disagreements, arbitration, court? How can the agreement end? Notice periods, consequences of termination.
And finally, mutual rights and responsibilities. A clear summary of who does what, risks, liabilities, how breaches are handled.
Wow, that's a lot more than just jotting down a fee on a napkin. It really underscores the need for proper legal documents reviewed by counsel.
It absolutely does. And the overall legal status in the U.S., Genie AI, legal secrets, others say it's generally legal, base UAT, and it's a huge, but only if you strictly comply with state-specific laws and licensing rules. Back to step one again.
And those real property management red flags really drive it home. Paying an agent directly outside, closing bad, getting paid yourself if you need a license and don't have one, very bad. Paying someone else who needs a license and doesn't have one, also bad.
And knowing those federal laws like RESA, even if your state allows unlicensed assignments for cash deals, RESPAG could come into play if licensed parties or federally related loans get involved. It's about preventing improper payments for referrals or unlicensed activity.
So navigate carefully, transparently, and with legal guidance. Always.
Non-negotiable.
And UpCounsel raised an interesting ethical point, too, about the finder's motivation.
Yeah, a potential downside. Since the finder gets paid for making the deal happen, their main drive might be just closing the deal to get the fee. This could sometimes mean they're less focused on whether it's truly the best possible match for the seller or buyer's specific needs versus just getting a deal done.
An inherent tension, maybe. Maximizing deal flow versus optimizing each individual outcome.
It's something to be aware of. The incentive structure primarily rewards the connection and transaction completion.
Okay, so we've defined the terms, walked through the process, looked at fees, dug into the crucial legal stuff. Let's zoom out. What are the big picture pros and cons of doing wholesale real estate based on everything in these sources?
All right, the pros. Investopedia and Mortgage Professional highlight several. It's seen as a fantastic way to learn the real estate game valuation, negotiation, market analysis without the huge financial risk of actually buying property yourself.
Lower risk because the upfront cash needed is usually just that small EMD or
Sure. Right. Often very little capital needed to get started compared to flipping or buying rentals. And the potential for profit can be much quicker. You get paid your assignment fee at closing, which could be just weeks after you find the deal.
Don't need great credit, usually.
Nope, no loans typically involved for the wholesaler. And no need for construction skills or renovation budgets because you're not doing that work.
If you build that buyer network, sales can be fast.
Very fast, potentially. And if you get good at it, doing multiple deals can lead to significant income over time.
Sounds pretty appealing, especially the low barrier to entry financially. But what about the downsides? The cons?
Definitely cons. The income is not stable or predictable. It's deal dependent. No regular paycheck, as mortgage professional points out, and no benefits like health insurance or retirement plans.
Finding deals consistently sounds tough, both sellers and buyers.
It is. Sources stress it takes persistent effort, strong marketing, constant networking to keep that pipeline full on both ends. It's not passive.
Requires sweat equity, as Investopedia put it.
Absolutely. Time, effort, building systems, making connections. And that licensing issue we keep hitting, some states require a license, adding a major hurdle. Cost, education, exams.
And the profit on one deal is usually less than a flip.
Generally, yes. The assignment fee is typically smaller than the potential profit from buying, renovating, and selling a property yourself. You aim for volume in wholesaling.
It's unpredictable work. Depends on market conditions.
Very much so. Availability of distressed properties fluctuates. Investor demand fluctuates. And there's always the risk, flagged by Mortgage Professional and Investopedia, of losing your EMD if you can't find a buyer and don't have a good contingency.
Plus, sellers might just not get it or be uncomfortable with the whole assignment idea.
That can happen. Explaining the process clearly and building trust is key, but some sellers might just prefer a traditional sale.
So definitely not easy money, despite the low capital entry. Takes work, skill, and navigating challenges. Okay, given all that, what are some final tips for success? Practical advice from the sources for someone considering this.
Commitment, patience, hard work. Investopedia hits those hard. It takes persistence. Communication and marketing skills need to be top-notch, especially for attracting and keeping those cash buyers happy.
That buyer list seems like the absolute linchpin.
It really does. Build it, nurture it, understand what they want. Also, be organized, goal setting, task management. You're juggling a lot. And get good at the numbers. ARV, MAO, repair estimates, accuracy matters.
Investopedia mentioned partnering with people like agents for leads, but carefully.
Yes. Leverage others' access if possible, but always stay within the legal lines regarding licensing. Don't accidentally perform licensed activities without a license.
Use technology, CRMs, apps.
Yeah, tech can help manage leads, track properties, market yourself. And maybe the most important thing, learn from every deal. What worked, what didn't, keep refining.
And try to make sure everyone wins. Seller and buyer happy.
Good ethics, good business. Builds reputation, leads to more deals, mortgage professional ads. Save money when you can. That income is bumpy. And their great tip, try to line up buyers before you even make an offer. De-risks the whole thing significantly.
The Reddit thread had some gems too. Get contract templates, but always have your local attorney review them. Don't start from scratch legally.
Crucial advice. And talk to buyers directly. Learn their exact needs and preferences. Cater your deal finding to them.
And maybe the most encouraging one from Reddit, don't wait for perfection. Just start. Learn as you go. Focus on making progress on your first few deals.
Yeah, action beats analysis paralysis sometimes. And go to those REIA meetings. Network.
Okay, wow. We have covered a ton of ground here on U.S. wholesale real estate and this finder's fee model, pulling from all those sources our listeners sent.
Yeah, we really unpacked it. The core is it's about assigning contracts for deals you find, not buying and fixing houses. Your profit, that assignment fee, is essentially your finder's fee for connecting a motivated seller with a ready cash buyer.
It's a specific process. You've got to know the steps, know the math, know the contracts, and absolutely know the laws in your specific state, which vary hugely.
Right.
Negotiation skills, communication skills, and especially building that network of cash buyers are paramount.
And while it offers ways in with less capital, maybe quicker potential payouts than flipping, it's definitely not easy. Unpredictable income, lots of hard work building the system, and serious legal complexities to navigate carefully.
So for you, our listener who asked about this deep dive, shows wholesale real estate is another path into the property market. Yeah. Lower capital risk up front, maybe, but it's a business built entirely on finding opportunities and connecting people effectively. It demands sharp skills in finding, analyzing, negotiating, and relationship building. If you do it right, legally, ethically, it offers potential.
It really highlights the value of being that connector, doesn't it? Seeing an opportunity here, seeing someone who needs it there, and having the process to bridge that gap and make a transaction happen.
That leads perfectly into our final thought for you to chew on after this deep dive. Think about this. We're drowning in information, right? Opportunities everywhere. Is the real skill becoming the ability to effectively find the truly valuable, maybe hidden connections, like that distressed property or that perfect buyer, and then having the know-how to actually link them up and make the deal happen? Is that connection making becoming a uniquely valuable skill itself?
The value in connection.
And maybe think beyond real estate too. Where else could this finder's fee mindset apply? Focusing on the power of connecting needs with solutions, just something to ponder.
Definitely food for thought.
We really hope this deep dive has shed some light on this fascinating corner of the real estate world.